Hey, folks, welcome back to Dominant Mets Nation. Hey, remember a few short months ago when we all believed that we were headed to the World Series? We were 22 games above 500, feeling good. Kodai Senga was coming back. Sean Manaea was coming back. Trade deadline was approaching. We're going to improve the team, maybe get an ace, maybe get a couple great bullpen pieces. Everything was looking rosy. Soto wasn't hitting his stride. The Mets were still winning. Alonso was doing great. Oh, we just need a center fielder. Oh, we might need one or two pieces in the bullpen. We are great. We are fine. Oh, that was just 2 months ago. Fast forward to today, and wow, the Mets are 7 games over 500 and barely holding on. We were thinking maybe this is the year, but folks, this is looking far from the year at this moment. I mean, I want to be optimistic, but the Mets have given us nothing, completely nothing to be optimistic about. I mean, 4 straight losses, the wild card lead that has virtually shrunk to nothing. You got a 2-game lead, folks, over the Giants. And you know what? Carlos Mendoza continues to play right now. He plays his broken record in the postgame. They ask him, Carlos Mendoza, how concerned are you? How concerned are you that the Mets won't be able to hold their lead in the NL wild card? And his exact quote is, no, we will. We're good, but we got to play better. We got to fight. What's in the past is in the past, and we've got to take it one day at a time. Wow, folks, those are his words. And how inspired are we? How inspired do we feel that now the Mets are just going to all of a sudden switch it on against the Rangers, against, the Marlins at the end of the year? They got a bunch of teams right now. The Padres, all the teams are going to face are fighting for something. The New York Mets right now have everything to fight for, everything to prove. But the New York Mets are doing everything to lose, folks. So we are going to go over a symphony of woes that the New York Mets have been. They've done this to themselves. My last video specifically focused on the leader of the clubhouse, Carlos Mendoza. And in fact, one person was hurt so bad that, I wish him well. They unsubscribed. I never want anybody to unsubscribe, but you know what? I'm always going to tell you what I feel, whether it be reactionary, whether it be my opinion, and I want you to have your own opinion. And our opinions should differ. Sometimes they're similar, but I want you to say what you feel down in the comments. Tell me what you feel about this situation. Tell me, who's to blame. Because in my opinion, there is plenty of blame to go around. I mean, you can spend hours finding ways and not finding ways, listing ways to blame Stearns, listing ways to blame Mendoza, listing ways to blame the players up and down this roster. But folks, right now, the New York Mets need to be united, need to be inspired, need to be that one cohesive unit, and I am relying on Carlos Mendoza to do so. Thus far, he is not. I mean, before we get into it, like and subscribe. It tremendously helps the channel. And if you're a diehard Mets fan, MLB fan, we try to bring the passion here. We try to bring you facts. We don't care about feelings. I mean, this is about the New York Mets. Geared goal is to win a World Series, right? So I don't care. Oh, the New York Mets won 2 games, scored 30 runs. They're good. They're fine. They're great. No, I don't. It's about the big picture. It's always been about the big picture. We're recording right now. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning. And, I had a couple hours to sleep on this latest debacle. But let's get a big macro picture. As of today, September 10th, the New York Mets are 76 and 69. They are really right now falling and falling fast. Again, I mentioned they have a 2-game lead over the Giants for the wild card, and there are other teams now in the mix. The New York Mets have opened the door, invited everyone. Hey, who wants to compete for this last wild card spot? Because we apparently don't want it. Again, you have 4 straight losses, including a drubbing by the Mets to the Phillies. after yesterday losing 1-0. How do you lose 1-0? How do you not score a run? How do you not score a run? But the New York Mets down the stretch have lost 8 out of their last 12 games. 8 of the last 12. This is how they fight. This is how they fight down the stretch. And they're keeping the Phillies inspired. The Phillies are gaining ground. The Phillies are gaining confidence. This is the worst thing the Mets can do at every single backroads. It's frankly unacceptable. Unacceptable. At one point, obviously we know the Mets, they've had their 7 games losing streak. They've blown a 5.5 game lead in the division. The wild card picture is looking like the next thing they're going to blow. It's just, folks, it's hard. Last week I had COVID, right? So I'm looking for something to make me feel better. All right, let's turn on the Mets. You got Jonah Tong pitching. You got Brandon Sproat. Brandon Sproat, not bad for his first outing. Not bad at all. Even Jonah Tong, giving up a few runs. It's his second outing. He's got to have a little more confidence, a little more conviction in his best pitchers. But it's a work in progress. Not everybody can be, not everybody could be a Nolan McLean, really. But, the fact of the matter is the Mets have not given us Mets fans anything to feel good about. Really, anything to feel good about. Now, the last torment was last night, Mets losing 9-3. And, you have this guy, Ranger Suárez. He's a nice pitcher. But striking out 12 guys, Soto and Alonso back-to-back several times, 12 Ks in 6 innings. You made him look like Randy Johnson. You made him look like one of an all-time great pitchers. And this is a day after, after you lose 1-0. And, the offense has now really sputtered like the pitching in the last couple of games. And that is not good. The Phillies pummeled early. Schwarber got his 50th homer. Kemp and Bader, their homers off of Manaea. Manaea letting up 4 quick runs. Manaea not inspiring confidence. His ERA is literally 7.71 over his last 7 starts. Kodai Senga agreed to go down to the minors, but at that point, I felt that Kodai Senga, although struggling, Manaea deserved to go down more. I know there are extenuating circumstances, but folks, Manaea and Senga, your 2 guys that you are relying on, have given you nothing. You are forced, and I said this right after the trade deadline, right after the Mets continue to spit the bit, right after the Mets continue to play horrible, I said you got a few quick options. You got very few options. Number 1, you can fire Mendoza. And number 2, you can bring up 1 pitcher, you can bring up 2, or you can bring up all 3. And I think that's the way the Mets are going to go. That's the way they went. The Mets wanted to hold on. The Mets thought that Mendoza could continue to inspire this team, but this team does not look inspired. This team does not look ready to fight. Every other team, the Phillies, I criticized them last series, but the fact of the matter is they hate to lose. The fact of the matter is the Phillies, they lost those games and they circled it on their calendar. They've played inspired after the Mets left them. They've put the lead from, 4 games to now 8, 9 games? The New York Mets right now are just playing so putrid, and they are continuing to not only play bad, but, they're getting their competition going. It's just not very productive on every single end, and it's just so disappointing because, again, this was supposedly the year. Again, Aaron Nola yesterday, you make him look like a Hall of Famer, a Roy Halladay like performance. The Philly Pens looking like, you got a bunch of Riveras out there. The Mets couldn't score with the runners in scoring position in the 9th inning. You have Francisco Alvarez swinging at pitchers 2 feet out of the strike zone. And, my take on Alvarez, and I said this exactly when it happened. I said Alvarez right now should go rest, get his hand, get his fingers. He's got multiple injuries in his hands. I saw what Alvarez did in the beginning of the year when he was dealing with an injury, when he didn't have his confidence. Now he's got multiple injuries. This is not the Alvarez you saw getting hot. This is not the Alvarez you see being patient at the plate, going to center field, going to oppo. This is a guy that's looking for a certain pitch that he can handle. And pitchers know it. They know he has an injury, right? So they're going to play to it. They're going to throw him up and in. They're going to make him chase those pitches outside the plate. I mean, he got a pitch, I believe, in the second or third inning that he lined pretty hard to left field. It was down, it was low, it was over the plate, and he hit a sharp hit to left field. And, the left fielder caught it. And to me, I'm saying that's his ceiling. That's all he could do right now. And I don't blame him. He's hurt. He shouldn't even be out there. But that's been a theme this whole entire year. Players that shouldn't be out there are forced to play because the Mets just aren't set up to have that depth that you thought they had. Francisco Lindor is forced to play with an injury. Pete Alonso's forced to play with an injury. Kodai Senga's apparently still dealing with something. Sean Manaea, everybody's saying stuff's going on with his elbow. And then, David Stearns brings in Frankie Montas, horrible. He's out. Mullins, one of the worst trades ever. I mean, Drew Gilbert, in his last 65 games, has 3 homers, 12 RBIs. Cedric Mullins here has 1 home run, 8 RBIs, and over 100 plate appearances. Half of the plate appearances that Drew Gilbert has. You know what, folks? There would have been so many better options for David Stearns to have pivoted to for center field. I mean, Drew Gilbert was never given a look. Never, ever given a look. Now you give up 6 years of Drew Gilbert, and that's just one of the many pieces you give it away. Nothing has been productive that we received at the trade deadline. Last year, I was very unsatisfied. I felt that if we would have gotten better players, that could have been the difference in the World Series. But this year's trade deadline seems to be worse. I mean, Ryan Helsley, the catastrophe. I mean, it's that was your piece. That was your piece that you got, that, hey, he could be Diaz's backup. He can actually take Diaz's place in certain positions of the game. But, he's got an 11.45 ERA, 4 blown saves in 14 appearances. I mean, he's done so bad in such few appearances. It's just hard to fathom how bad he's been. And the rotation flip-flop, again, Kodai Senga demoted. Senga 6.56 ERA over his last 8 starts. Sent to AAA, and now the rotation has 3 rookies. I mean, how do we feel about that? Besides Nolan McLean, I'm okay with. He has proven that he has elite stuff. He has proven that he's mentally strong. The other guys, I think it's a little unfair. I want to see more of Sproat. I want to see more of Tong. But, again, we're being very unfair to them. So whether they excel or, they do what a normal rookie would do, have good games, have bad games, they're forced to only be good right now. It's just, the way the season has gone. Frankie Montas, Tommy John, Tyler McGill. That was a guy I was relying on. And, to have myself think that I'm relying on Tyler McGill, I mean, and then also to think that I wish I had Griffin Canning. I mean, these are the guys that I wish we had right now because the pitching staff is virtually barren. And everybody saw this from 10 miles away. I mean, everybody saw, in terms of the criticism, there's plenty to go around. David Stearns, it's not like everybody said, hey, you're going to have a stellar pitching staff. You did a great job. Everybody predicted, hey, if not a bad pitching staff, you might have a historically bad pitching staff. And, when you look at the things, there were factors why. You have Sean Manaea, he's 33 years old. He got injured. Okay. You didn't know that in the beginning of the year. He got, injured, after moves were made. All right, but you have Kodai Senga. It was known he's coming off an injury. It was known that his arm may be tired. It was known that he was injury prone. Clay Holmes, a guy that never pitched over 70 innings because he was a reliever, a converted reliever. You knew at one point he was going to get tired. You knew that there was a big chance that he wouldn't be able to go deep in games. You knew those factors before. You knew if Frankie Montas had a good chance of being garbage. You knew, Sean Manaea, even though you didn't know about the injury at the time of signing, you knew he was older. You knew that he only had one blip on his resume that was, really above average. Other than that, he was a 4.10 career ERA pitcher. So there were many factors that were known. David Peterson, another thing, David Peterson's max innings in a season was 122. You knew that him going to 150 was really stretching him out. I mean, now we got multiple guys that we're stretching out because we have nothing else. Clay Holmes is approaching 150 innings. David Peterson approaching 150 innings. Senga's out of the rotation. Manaea is going to be out of the rotation. Tyler McGill, and they asked the other day of Carlos Mendoza, what's going on with McGill? And he basically said, he's probably going to be done for the season because he's complaining about the same issue that he was complaining about when he first went out. So, I mean, it still hasn't been fixed. It still hasn't been resolved. And who do you blame for that? The medical staff, Tyler McGill. You could tell that Carlos Mendoza was frustrating because the fact that he said Tyler McGill complained is something that he never says that a player says. He never says a player complains. But, you could tell he was irked. He was relying on Tyler McGill to be that extra, give him that extra, pitcher, that extra guy that he can go to. Because right now there aren't too many viable options. So that's on Stearns right there. I mean, that's on the players. That's on Stearns. That's on Mendoza. It's on everybody. So again, there's plenty of blame to go around. It's just ultra disappointing because just when you think the Mets turned a corner in Detroit, just when you think they turned a corner against Philly a couple weeks ago, the New York Mets then really show their true colors. The Mets had a great offensive August, but still managed to have a losing August nonetheless. And then, when you think of how the Mets are playing on the field, like how inspired are they? Are they playing crisp, clean baseball? I mean, one of the things you can never do, right? One of the things you can never do, and this is going back a few games, is get picked off when your best hitter is up. I mean, Lindor did it a few games ago, multiple times when Soto was at the plate, which drive me crazy. Then you have Brett Beatty doing the same thing yesterday in the fifth inning when you have Juan Soto up in a 1-0 game. I mean, these things are frankly unacceptable. And the fact that the New York Mets think that they can do this and get away with it, who's holding them accountable? I mean, not at full squarely on Mendoza. It's unacceptable. Nothing boosts confidence like getting picked off with your best player at the plate. And again, Lindor picked off twice. You'll get caught stealing once and picked off one time. Beatty picked off. Not acceptable. And then you got ridiculously player slumps. Mullins 0 for 26. Helsley, again, I mentioned he had that 11.45 ERA. Senga, again, down to AAA. Monta's out for the season. Not that I was ever relying on him. Tyler McGill looks like he's done. Torrens is hurt. Deadline was horrible. Payroll sky high. Fans and analysts are calling for, there's got to be accountability. Really got to be accountability right now. And one thing I found odd in the broadcast, I think it was Keith saying how, when Pete Alonso was on base yesterday, Bryce Harper wasn't talking to him. He wasn't being friendly. But today he's being friendly. I think the pressure was off the Phillies. They know they lost 4 games in a row. They won a game. Now the division lead is so far. Now they feel comfortable. I mean, in my opinion, I'm like, that is ridiculous. Why are you criticizing Bryce Harper, who has clear focus, a clear, his point is to win, not socialize not fraternize with the opponent, and you guys are pointing out like that's something wrong. No, the guy is focused to win a World Series. Who cares about talking to Pete Alonso and laughing at first base? I mean, that is what really kind of irks me to see Lindor, everybody trying, that is their focus, trying to be friendly with the other team. There is no fight. There's no fire and desire on this team. There is no killer instinct. I know that has been the central theme of a lot of my videos, and I continue to say that. I don't want it to continue to be the central theme, but again, I don't see the killer instinct, right? And then Sean Manaea, they mentioned also on the broadcast today that Sean Manaea is a guy, some guys, Mendoza has to motivate, different ways. You have to give confidence to, but other guys you really have to get on and push because they need that motivation. I mean, like a guy you have to, literally push. You have to push Manaea. You gave the guy $75 million. And if he has that type of laid back personality where you have to throw him through a door for him to perform, why the hell are you giving him $75 million? I mean, that's a stupid thing right there. So, I mean, so many dumb moves the Mets have made, so many things to complain about, and the Mets are doing nothing right now to gain confidence. Only right now we see a lead collapsing. We see confidence collapsing, and and I know you're out there. I know there's some people right now that are saying, we're losing because of this, we're losing because of that. Hey, folks, if you can pinpoint just one thing, I give you all the credit in the world. Because again, I'm saying Carlos Mendoza because he is the leader. I hold leaders accountable. And again, if you're one that thinks the manager has no impact, then why are managers ever switched? Why are managers ever changed if they make zero impact? I don't think they make a lot of impact, but I do think they have some impact. And I do think the way a team goes out there in terms of being inspired, the way a team pursues a pennant race, I think that has a lot of reflection on the manager. If a manager has that fight, that killer instinct, I think that really trickles down. And then when you go back to the situation, the Mets right now are in the midst of a collapse, right? They've spent more money than ever. They've invested more long-term money than ever, especially with Soto, historic contract. Manaea over the offseason, Montas, that was a complete disaster. But the Mets are investing more money all over the organization, more money than they've ever invested. And if you really look at history, you had Buck Showalter win 101 games, looking like the Mets are going, skyrocketing. Then you have that 2023 collapse. Buck gets the boot. He gets fired. Then you bring in Mendoza in here. Mendoza has a very fairly good year one, going 2 games shy of the World Series. Very good. You had a lot of guys play very clutch. The Mets, there was a lot of opportunity for the New York Mets to not make the playoffs, but the Mets continued to play clutch down the stretch. They continue to play hungry. But you know what? If I really analyze the situation, the only reason why the Mets were in it was because their starting pitchers were really, on the money. And they were motivated. They had reason to be motivated. Manaea was going out there for a contract, so a guy who this year is supposedly not motivated, that's a guy you were relying on last year, going for a contract. Luis Severino, another guy going for a contract. Jose Quintana, another guy going for a contract. David Peterson, another guy going for a contract. So what do you need? You need every single player, you got to find the right player, but players going into their free agency year, players that are motivated. I think this is what Stearns tried to employ, getting these guys in short-term contract. But you got to get guys of somewhat good talent. Like Severino had success in the past. Manaea, yeah, you saw something. But again, last year you had the pitching starters have some success. This year's the starting pitchers besides Nolan McLean, and you see they flash it on the TV all the time. Nolan McLean's 4-1. He's got like a 1.6 ERA, and then the other starters are like 5-7, and the ERA is like close to 6 or 7. So I mean, the other starters outside of Nolan McLean have been beyond horrendous. And again, you've had some bright spots with Tong and Sproat, but besides that, we're not looking good, folks. We are not looking good. And can the Mets stop this? Can they turn this around? I mean, I'm looking at the big, in June again. You had that 7-game skid. We blew the 5.5-game lead in the division. I mean, that's ages ago. August 10th, the New York Mets blown save. Brewers walking off. Mets lost 7 out of their last 12. And that was at August 10th. That was another huge losing, a lot of losing there. Early September, again, you're seeing Helsley continue to melt down. Kodai Senga, a guy who is supposedly your ace. I mean, how does that look? He gets sent down. Another thing too, the Mets offense has been sputtering. Something that bothered me yesterday. So this is 2 days ago now. So this is when you had. Hold on, let me get it. Okay, so you had Aaron Nola on the mound. It was in the second inning of yesterday's game. So again, 2 nights ago, I apologize. So it was in the second inning. Aaron Nola's on the mound. It's a 0-0 game. And literally, Mendoza, it's a 0-0 game. There's a guy on third. And you have Mendoza keeping the infield in. And I'm like, in a 0-0 game, and it's in the second inning, and you have your infield in. I'm like, okay, I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything like that. And what does that do in terms of inspiring your offense? That is showing that you have no confidence in your offense. So seeing that a couple of days ago, I'm like putting my heads in my hand. I'm like, wow, we are that desperate. But not only are we that desperate, we have zero confidence in the offense. And the offense, although struggling in the last couple of games, that has been our only bright spot. So that really kind of like stood out to me. But again, this team, in my opinion, psychologically is in denial. They're 7 games over 500. They could bounce back. They're still going to hold on to the wild card lead. I mean, there's much reason to be concerned. The slippage has begun months and months ago. Brave faces right now are beginning to crumble. I mean, Mendoza in the press conference, I mean, it almost looked like he was about to cry. Well, it almost looked like he was about to cry, when they asked him about his chances to hold the wild card. I mean, so it's not looking too inspirational. Panic, in my opinion, has set in, but it's set in amongst leadership. It hasn't really set in with the players. The players are still playing like, hey, let's play another game. Let's see if the offense does good. Let's see if maybe the starting pitchers don't give up 10 runs. Let's see. If anything, you blame Mendoza, you blame Stearns. We're still making our millions. It's just not conducive to winning. You're one team, you're one focus, you're one mission. That's why Bryce Harper not talking to Pete Alonso. Nobody should really give a damn. Bryce Harper shouldn't be talking to Pete Alonso. The collapse realization is 100% set in. This isn't a stumble, folks. This is a huge free fall. I mean, from when we were 21, 22 games up, now we are 7 games up. We have played under 500 ball for majority of this season, folks. Majority of this season. So here's where we stand. We're 76 and 69. We're choking in a wild card race in a tremendously bad way. Our rotation held together by textbook finger injuries. I mean, we've had injuries, but right now, we just have those 3 rookies. We have those 3 rookies. You got Peterson. He's been struggling. Holmes has been struggling as well. The bullpen not really inspiring that much confidence. There's no energy, no clutch plays, no leadership, and one of the most miserable collapses you can watch in real time because it's slow. It's a very slow drip collapse. And this is why when the Mets win 2 or 3 games and they look like their offense is inspired and Nolan McLean throws a gem, folks, where would we be without Nolan McLean? Without Nolan McLean, we would be 2 games back or 3 games back of the wild card right now. We would have already been out of the wild card. In fact, I think McLean inspired the offense. So instead of, taking those 4 wins away, I think we would have been, more than that 4-game swing. But hey, at least Juan Soto, he might get to 40 home runs, 35 stolen bases. He's going to finish probably in the top 3 of an MVP. So if you want to soak find some type of semblance of joy, there you go. You got something. You got something to feel good about. Congrats to Juan Soto. But the emotional dagger is, what do we do after the season? What do we do? I know one thing, we're probably going to build around the young kids pitching wise, but are we going to get that ace? And, it's David Stearns. Is he going to be the guy to do it? I mean, is it ironic that as soon as David Stearns leaves the Milwaukee Brewers literally take 10 steps forward? Literally take 10 steps forward. I mean, as good as they look last year, they are 10 times better looking this year. Right. And again, you could say that David Stearns built this team, but then you can also say that the guy who has replaced David Stearns has taken it to the next level. Now, I know, this year's pitching, there has not been much development. This year's trades have not shown much of anything to be positive about. But, is everybody in the right position in the organization? Is Carlos Mendoza the right man to be manager? Is David Stearns the right man to be president of baseball operations and general manager? I mean, I do like the fact that he has developed the farm system. Our farm system, according to ESPN, is ranked number 1, right? Baseball America, MLB.com, that's a different story. But they do have a very good increase in the Mets' overall talent. So even those publications have recognized that the Mets have developed their talent. And again, you see guys being produced like Nolan McLean's, Jonah Tongs, Brandon Sproats, and a list of other guys. So, that's one part of the job if you're general manager, right? But it's not the only part of the job and president of baseball operations. So maybe is it worth this offseason, David Stern, if you're not going to fire him, and I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would do that. He's only been here for 2 years or a year and a half, however you look at that. But do you look at getting a general manager? Do you look at a guy who on day to day is better at, though part of the job, that part of the job? And I think that may be some way to go. They might get a general manager. They might fire Carlos Mendoza. That might be their, all right, we fix that. We fix that cultural issue. But again, there's going to be a lot of emotional responses. Even mentioning firing Carlos Mendoza is something I thought I would never mention. I was a staunch defender of Mendoza. Probably until I would say, sometime after the trade deadline. Sometime after the trade deadline, when I saw the players go out there completely uninspired, completely making silly, stupid errors and plays, and just really not caring. Manaea laughing in the press conference. It's you trying to joke around with the opponent. I mean, something stands out in the Padres when the Padres swept us in San Diego, and you have everybody joking around with Iglesias, like they're on the same team, like it's just not sitting right. It's just not sitting right. So the Mets continue to fall lower and lower, folks. It's just really not good. Not good. I mean, it's 5:30 in the morning now. I've been working on this video for quite some time. So if you stayed this far, please like and please subscribe. But again, I really couldn't sleep. And I had COVID in the last week, so wasn't doing too much better on that front. But again, like and subscribe. I really wish I can come with more positivity. I hate really coming with negativity about a team that I love, a team that I had confidence in. Not good. Not good, folks. Not good. But I'm going to talk to you very, very soon. Again, I'm feeling much, much better. So I will talk to everybody soon. Thank you, a couple of people who checked in. I really do appreciate that.